Hello, my name is Stephanie Ulrich, and I am on the board of Sparrow Place. When I was in my senior year of college, I went on a mission trip to Fortaleza, Brazil. I stayed with a group of missionaries for a week as they lived in and ministered to the city. And one night while I was there, we went to the red light district of the city. And it was a shocking thing. I'd never done anything like that before. And the average age of the girls who are prostituted there is 14 or 15 years old. So these were kids. The missionaries set out tables. They had food that they offered the girls. It was a Christmas banquet, they called it. They painted nails and just talked to them and prayed with them. And it was very shocking for me to see these 14 and 15-year-olds walking the streets and getting in cars with these men. But it was amazing to see what the missionaries were doing. And then that really struck with me. The idea of trafficking really stuck with me after that point. And when I went on to get my master's degree in anthropology, I did research with survivors of human trafficking in Kathmandu, Nepal. I worked with a wonderful organization called Asha Nepal, which works with supporting survivors and the children of survivors. So when I came back from Nepal, I was really struck by the fact that I wanted to use my life to combat trafficking and support survivors. But the thought came to me that I didn't know a lot about what was happening right here. I knew that there was trafficking in these third world countries. And it's so much easier to imagine trafficking happening on the streets of Brazil or in the cities and towns of Nepal. But it's happening right here. It's not just in these third world countries, it's happening right here in our cities, in our neighborhoods. It's right here where we live. And that just hit me that I wanted to do something about what was happening right in this place. So I am on the board of Sparrow Place. We are a nonprofit with the vision to open the first restorative home for survivors of sex trafficking in York. We're currently spreading awareness about trafficking and doing a lot of planning and fundraising. And I'm here today to talk to you a bit about what trafficking looks like today and different components of it. So today we're going to talk about human trafficking, we're going to talk about pornography, and we're going to talk about social media. And while these seem like separate ideas, they are all really interconnected. And understanding these topics is a way to protect yourself and others from trafficking, and really just be prepared for whatever you come across while you're online or while you're out and about in the world, that you can really start thinking about the fact that trafficking is happening. And you might encounter someone who is involved with trafficking, or you might hear a story about a friend and something that happened to them, and you could intervene and you could help them. So this is a really heavy topic. We're going to talk about some really heavy things. If you feel overwhelmed, feel free to take a break, talk to someone you trust. In fact, it's a good idea to think of a few people you trust right now. Think of a few other adults in your life that you could go to if this stuff really hits you, if you need to talk to somebody about it. So I'm going to start off with this question. Human trafficking is when people come into the country illegally. True or false? What do you think? That is false. Human trafficking is not human smuggling. Human trafficking does not require someone to be relocated to a different place. You could literally be trafficked from your own home, from your own neighborhood, from the city where you live. It doesn't require for someone to be moved to a different location. So human trafficking is considered modern day slavery. So you think about slavery that you learned about in school, like the slavery of African Americans in our country. It is a similar concept in the idea that you are keeping people against their will and you are using them for a profit or for a purpose. But it looks a little differently today. It's very different in today's modern world with our technology and just a lot of different advancements in the world. And human trafficking is the second largest and fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. So drugs is the first criminal enterprise, then human trafficking, and then guns is the third. So human trafficking is a higher criminal enterprise than selling guns is. and it's a massively growing industry. It's very profitable. There are 40.3 million slaves in the world today. That's more slaves than there were in the transatlantic slave trade, which is the slave trade in our history. It's a massive amount, more slaves in the world today than ever before. And 75% of them are women and girls, and 25% of them are children. And this is a heat map from the Human Trafficking Hotline. It shows where there are, they've had trafficking calls come in for reports of tips of where there's trafficking or where actual trafficking is happening. So as you can see, this is spread out all over. This is spread all over the country. There's calls from every single state. It's in rural, suburban, urban communities across the US. It's no matter where you live, it's happening. And you can pinpoint where you are. I'm over here in Pennsylvania, and there's extremely red, extremely. There are tons of calls here. It's happening all over the place. It's a business with people who are greedy for profits, and what they are selling just happens to be people. You could think about it like they could be selling a candy bar. They could be selling this candy bar to get lots of money, but instead they're selling a person. It's hard to wrap your head around, but that's the basic idea. And anyone can be trafficked. And so we're going to talk about how you can protect yourselves and others later on throughout the presentation, because it can be anyone. And slavery looks different today because of all the technology, like I said. It's easy to access one another. There's endless communication. It's so easy to connect with anybody throughout the world that is an exciting thing. We stay connected, but it also makes people vulnerable because anybody can find anybody else. So why would someone do this? Why would someone sell another person? It's so hard to wrap your head around how someone could do that, how they could devalue someone that much. And like I said, greed is the main reason that people sell other people. They want to make money. And if you consider the fact that without somebody to buy that person, there would be no seller. And then without a seller, there would be no victims. So whether it's a chocolate bar or a human being, if there is no buyer, there is no manufacturing of a product. So it all comes back to the fact that there are people who are willing to buy another person. And you really have to dehumanize yourself, I think, to be able to sell another person. You have to stop looking at them as a person and look at them as a product. A lot of stuff that has to go through your brain to be able to justify that. So why would anyone buy a human? So it's either for the purpose of forced labor, which is considered labor trafficking, or commercial sex, which is considered sex trafficking. So both they force a person to use their body for the profit of someone else. And today we are going to focus on sex trafficking, which there is, it's like 70% of trafficking in the US is sex trafficking and 30% is labor trafficking. So labor trafficking is still a really big issue in our country, but today, and with Sparrow Place, we specifically focus on sex trafficking. So what is commercial sex? So commercial sex means any form of sex act in exchange for anything of value. So a sex act is could be you're in a strip club. It could be phone sex. It could be prostitution, and it could be pornography. Any of those things for profit. And value doesn't necessarily have to be money. You think about it like people being paid for something, but you can be paid in a variety of things. You could be paid in clothing. You could be paid in food. You could be paid in housing, or you could even be paid in drugs. And if people are paid in like their basic needs, such as food, clothing, or housing, that's called survival sex. This is a common thing when individuals are homeless, that this is a way that they could have a home, that in exchange for a home, in exchange for food or other things they need, they might have sex with people to do that. And that's still considered commercial sex, even if there isn't actual money that's being exchanged. It's an exchange for anything of value. So if a minor performs a sex act, it's immediately considered, performs a sex act for money, it's immediately considered commercial sex. So if you're 17 or younger and perform a commercial sex act, or if you're 18 or older and someone makes you perform a commercial sex act, it's considered sex trafficking. So there are a variety of ways that people force other people to perform sex acts. So one of them is through force. This is through violence. This could be through kidnapping someone. It could be through beating them or torturing them. It could be through sexual assault or confining someone in a certain place. It's using physical violence, sexual abuse, or confining someone, holding them down. And it might look like someone's just being kidnapped, and it might involve kidnapping, but there's commercial sex as a part of it. You can think about it like the movie Taken, where a girl goes to Europe with a friend, and these guys find out where she lives, they kidnap her, and they take her and they force her to, they sell her, and then they force her to have sex with people. And this is the common idea of what people think sex trafficking looks like. They think it's someone who grabs you, takes you away, and forces you to do things. But this isn't entirely how sex trafficking looks today. It's harder to get someone to do something when they don't want to do it at all. It's harder if you're completely physically forcing them. So we're going to talk about some other ways to get people to do things that are a little bit more mind games, which make you think you want to do this. But this is a way that people are forced into commercial sex. It's just not the most common today. So traffickers how can they do that even when they aren't there? So you can imagine that a trafficker takes somebody and forces somebody to do something, but how could they do that if they're not in the same place with you? And that is through lies. You can do that over the internet, you can do that in person, but you can through lies. They use fraud, they use lies, they look for vulnerable prey. They look for people who are desperate, who need help, who need money, they need a place to stay. They might be having trouble at home. They just have needs that they want fulfilled. They might be feeling empty, have a low self-esteem, feel really unworthy or miserable. And this person fulfills all those needs. You're having trouble at home? I've got a place for you to stay. You don't feel like you're being loved? Well, I love you. I care about you. They call you beautiful. They tell you everything that you want to hear. They want to fulfill those needs, and then that makes you need them. You want them. So there's a few different ideas of this. There's the Romeo pimp, which is a guy, he might be an older guy you know at school, or he's a boyfriend type who tells you he loves you and he showers you with gifts and affection and a lot of promises. He says that you're an amazing actress. You could go be an actress. I could totally help you, hook you up with that. I have a job I could help you do. You should come and stay with me. I could take care of you. And there's also the idea of a bottom girl. This is a girl who is already involved in commercial sex, and she shows off the fact that she has lots of money, that she has connections, that she has friends, that she's in this life and things are great, and you could have all that she has if you join her. She's a best friend type of person. So these people use fraud and lies to pull you in, to help you think that you need them and they have what you need. They convince you that this is the life that you want. And then coercion is through threats. So they use threats or intimidation. They threaten you with serious harm. They might threaten your sibling with serious harm. They might threaten your pet with serious harm. They threaten things in your life and say, if you don't do what they want, then bad things are going to happen to you. They also emotionally abuse you. This is sometimes with a parent trafficking a child and threatening to take away their basic needs, their love, their actual needs. I know that is shocking, but that does happen, that parents and other family members do traffic their own children. And you're stuck in a climate of fear. You have to bring back a certain amount of money, or you can't come home, or you can't have something, you can't have food if you don't bring this amount of money. Just threats pulling you in. And they also model abusive behavior, which means they might push your friend down the stairs and say, if you don't go out tonight and you don't make this amount of money, I'm going to push your friend down the stairs again. So while they're not physically forcing you to do something, they're forcing you with these threats. They're saying these things that then make you do something else. So you might feel like, I've made this choice, I've chosen to do this, but they've really tricked you into it. They've pulled you into it with these threats. So it's called grooming or breaking someone, when they pull someone in, when they go through this process of using coercion and lies and violence and showing love even. It's breaking people in, it's pulling them in. And this often causes people to be bonded to their abusers. This is a common thing with domestic abuse as well. It's something called trauma bonding. So, such as the fact that someone hits you, but then they give you love, or they give you food and they give you money. And you hate the violence, but you are sucked in by the hope of something positive, by the hope that they're gonna give you more food, by the fact that they love you and you're gonna receive more of that love. You put up with the negative to receive the positive, and it's really difficult to break these attachments. They're extremely strong. And you stay with this person no matter what. You've experienced so much awfulness with them, but you stay with them for those moments of positive. And you end up being able to take a lot of things. You put up with a lot and you stay with them. And these are really strong bonds, and they're very hard to break. They do have kind of chains on your brain. They've trapped you in this life. They've trapped you into thinking that you need them, that they are so important to you, that they have things that you need. It's a very difficult cycle to break. It's all very psychological, whereas we think about with slavery in the past in our country, we think about actual chains holding people down. But here it is chains in your brain that make you think that this is what you want, which is much harder to break than actual chains. But like I said, it's two sets of shackles you have. Might be physical shackles and then mental shackles. You are just trapped in this thing. You're pulled into the life by the lies and the beliefs that you think that you want to be there. So who are the sellers? Who are the people who are selling people? So if you looked at this, who do you think would be the trafficker? Just look around here. Who do you think it would be? A variety of different people. Well, it might surprise you that every single person in this picture has trafficked someone else. Every single person. They look like totally different people. There's an old man, this woman who looks like your Sunday school teacher. All these people you would not expect. It can literally, anyone could be a trafficker. There isn't a set profile. So don't expect this idea of what a pimp is. There's this idea of like chains and fur and gold and this luxurious person walking around with all this money. It can literally be anyone. This stereotype does not hold up. You can't really profile a trafficker because it just has to be a person who's willing to dehumanize someone and make a profit from them. So who are the victims? This is also anyone. Anyone could be a victim of sex trafficking. But it's particularly people who are vulnerable. You can be vulnerable in a lot of different ways. You can be vulnerable if you are a runaway. You have a lot of things you need. Victims of sexual abuse, particularly children who are sexually abused as children. That's a very common thing that for sex trafficking victims. You can have an unstable home life or chronic homelessness, poverty, abuse, violence, mental illness. Could be a lack of a father figure. You're looking for someone to fulfill that role, and the trafficker comes right in and fulfills that role in your life. It could be you have lack of opportunities for education or vocation. You need money. You're vulnerable because you have things that you need. Or it could be that you identify as LGBTQ. This is very common community that experiences a lot of rejection. So they're looking for that love. They're looking for a safe place. The trafficker says that I have that safe place. I'm going to love you. I'm going to take care of you. It's very, very common. And then you consider, we talked about survival sex, which is if someone needs a place to stay, they need food, they're willing to have sex with someone to get that because that's the only thing they can do to get what they need. So I know this is a lot. I've thrown a lot of information at you. So just, let's all take some breaths and think about it, process it. You can think about if you have any questions that you'd like to ask about this. It's a lot of information. It's a lot to take in. Let's take a moment. All right, let's keep going. So it's time to talk about how our online lives contribute to sex trafficking. So think about this. Think about how many of you play games on a game console like PlayStation or Xbox or some other game console? How many of you post images or videos on sites like Instagram, Pinterest, or YouTube? How many of you go online to do research for homework assignments or do work for a job? How many of you shop online? How many of you talk with friends and family on sites like Skype or Facebook or Zoom? How many of you download apps on your smartphone? I'm sure every single person has done at least one of those things and participates in those things. It's a part of our culture to be online. But all of these things make you vulnerable to traffickers because they're on all of those platforms. And according to the Thorn research study in 2018, 55% of domestic minor sex trafficking survivors who entered the life in 2015 or later reported meeting their trafficker for the first time using text, a website, or a mobile app. And considering we're in 2020 and there's even more options now, that number is probably much higher now. The internet is considered the new street corner. So if you think about the idea of someone being picked up on a street, they're on a street corner and then the white van comes and pulls them, you get pulled into the van and taken away. Well, the internet is the new street corner. The internet is the new place where people are being trafficked, where they are being taken and where they are being sold. It can all happen online, all right there, which is scary because the internet is so hidden. You might not know what's going on in somebody's life, and there's so many more interactions. You can communicate with so many people online, which means so many more vulnerable people are interacting with traffickers. So online grooming. So grooming is the process where the trafficker tells you those lies. They pull you in. So a trafficker they'll appear familiar. So they will seem like they have researched you. They've looked at your profile. They've looked at your friends on your profile, and they talk about things you like. They talk about your cat. They send you gifts online. They help you get to the next level in your game. And they really feel like your friend because they know so much about you. They feel like somebody you've known forever. And they develop trust. They are your best friend. They're your romantic partner, and you can tell them anything. They establish this intimacy with you where you feel really comfortable with them. They establish secrecy. They tell you a secret and they say it's just between the two of you, nobody else. It's just your secret. And then they get you to share. They get you to share something private about yourself. And the process probably continues until it becomes more sexual in nature, sharing. They erode your boundaries. They gain your confidence over time and they test your boundaries. They might expose you to pornography or ask you for a nude video or photo. They lower your inhibitions. They just keep testing you and testing you and pushing you until you go places that you didn't know you were comfortable to go before. They sell you lies. They introduce you to new friends or maybe drugs. and you keep meeting them. Eventually, they control what you say and you do. They are just such a big part of your life that you think, I definitely need them. I need them to be there. And they use intimidation. After you engage in an illicit activity, they will threaten to use it against you. They'll threaten to blackmail you, to control you if you don't do what they say. So they threaten your cat. They might target many students at the same time. So you think you have some friends in common. This person adds you on social media. You have friends in common. And so you think that I must know this person, but they might just be targeting so many people at your school that you're all friends with them. They just seem familiar, but they're not really. Think about it. Do you know all of your social media friends in person? Have you met every single one of them in person? If you haven't, then you don't know exactly who they are. They could be anybody. You can easily hide behind a social media persona. And it's easy for them to make you feel comfortable, to feel safe, especially if they have friends in common. If they know things about you, then they can make themselves appear really safe and comfortable. So this is a particular sting operation where 24 men were arrested at a home where they arranged to meet 14 and 15-year-old girls and boys. This is a variety of ages. This is a huge group of people that the cops set up this sting. And all communications for this were done through social media apps. So they went onto social media apps and made an arrangement to go meet these children who they thought were going to be home alone. But they were actually talking to these cops. And these are landscapers, nurses, mechanics, doctors. These are anybody in your life could be this person. There's such a variety of people. And these are the people that you talk to online with the puppy profile picture. You think that that's who it is, but this is who it is. These are the faces of who those people actually are. You really don't know until you're in a situation like this where you're actually meeting them and see who they are. So let's talk about sexting. So sexting is sending or posting nude, partially nude, or sexually suggestive images. And it's a very big problem among teens and preteens today. It's a huge problem because it is so easy to take a picture and send a picture. So this is a video I'm going to show you about a particular kid who made a choice and how her choice with what to do with her photo really quickly went out of control.
You probably get lots of messages every day, but what if you got one like this? What would you do? Would you send a picture? No? Cool. That's an easy way to protect yourself. But what if you'd chosen differently? What if you send the picture? They'd never share it with anyone else, right? Do you want the picture shared with others? Sorry, you no longer have a choice. It's out of your hands now, because sometimes people we trust break that trust. Maybe the person you sent the picture to shows it to some friends. Maybe they send it to a couple friends, who send it to a couple more friends, you get the idea. It spreads, and you never know who might see it. Your little brother? Your mom? Other people at school? Even strangers could get a hold of your picture. You never really know where that picture will end up. How long it will be out there? Or what the consequences will be. Don't let others decide what happens to your image. Think before you share. Learn more at netsmarts.org. And hey, if your image is already out there, know that it's not your fault. For information about removing sexual pictures and videos from the internet, visit missingkids.org/gethelpnow.
So as you can see from that video, it's so easy for an image that you send to someone to really go anywhere. It could go absolutely anywhere. Once you send that image out, they have it and they can send it to other people. They can send it anywhere, and it could end up online and be used as pornography. So it's very dangerous. But let's say that you have done something like this. What to do? What should you do? The first thing is, don't panic. Everyone makes mistakes. We all do. And it's never too late to talk to a trusted adult. Think about the people that you thought about in the beginning of this presentation, who you would go to talk about it. And so, a good thing to do is to get help. You can text Thorn to 741-741. And you can also go to stopsextortion.com, which is a great site with a lot of information. It's also very important that you don't delete your photo yourself. You should report it to the cybertipline.org, and the tech companies can help to remove it because they can more fully remove it than you could if you just click delete. Things stay on there. Know that you're not alone in this, that there are people who are there for you, who can support you and help you through this. Everyone makes mistakes, and there is a way to resolve this, which is safe. So everybody still good? I'm gonna take a few more deep breaths. Just think about it. Think about any questions you have. Take a minute. All right, let's keep going. So, yep, it's time to talk about something which is a bit difficult to talk about, you don't always hear about, which is pornography. This is a little bit of an uncomfortable part of the presentation, but pornography is printed or visual material containing nudity or sexual behavior. So it is so easy to access porn today. In 2017, there was a study that said 75% of exposure to porn was through phones. So it's so easy to access. It's in your phone. It's always with you. You can look at it at any point. And often the first exposure to porn is 11 years old today. So it's so easy to access. People have it with them all the time. So is porn exposure a big deal? Yes. Yes, it definitely is. It's in our world today, it's not really considered a big deal. It's considered almost commonplace. There's jokes about it. There's memes about it. It's talked about as though it's just an average, everyday thing. But it can have a massive impact on your life, and it very much connects to sex trafficking. So porn impacts your brain like a drug, and it is addictive. You start with it, and it's really hard to stop. It just sinks into your brain. It's often violent, which spreads false ideas about relationships and about sex. It makes it all, and that could cause people to have problems in further relationships or to act out violently in those relationships. There's even an issue with youthful sexual dysfunction on the rise. Porn messes with your brain and can make it difficult for you to actually perform sex. It can mess with your brain in that way. It also causes depression, anxiety, and stress. It just messes with your mental health. It sinks into your brain and can cause you to feel really just overwhelmed, and it can cause social problems. It can be difficult to communicate with other people. And there's also even a rise on child-on-child sexual assault, which is a massive thing, that porn is normalizing violent sex. It's normalizing that and even causing children to think that that is normal. And so then they go to perform that sex. It has a massive impact. And a very big thing is porn is often victims of sex trafficking. So victims are often forced to watch pornography as a training tool. They watch porn to learn how to perform in commercial sex. Victims are forced to act out what their exploiter watches. So if it's a really violent porn, they're forced to perform that and do that. And nearly half of sex trafficking victims report that pornography was made of them while they were in bondage. So while it seems like the porn you're watching is something which is consensual, which is someone's job, if they're just an actor performing someone, it's likely that that person is being forced to do that on camera. They're being forced to do that. You're not watching some consensual thing. You're watching someone literally be raped. You're watching this violence happen. And that film will be available for public viewing for the rest of this person's life. So even after that person is no longer a victim of trafficking, that will still be out there online, haunting them, perhaps messing with their family life, their relationships, their ability to get a job. It's there forever. So also 89% of pornography is created and exported from the US. So it's all from right here in the US. And it has a strong impact on our culture and how we are impacting other cultures. This is something that our country is spreading to the world. So there's a great site called Fight the New Drug. They have really great resources about pornography and the dangers of pornography, and also getting help. If someone is addicted to porn, it is never too late to get help. Never be ashamed of getting help and asking for help. There are so many resources out there. This is a great resource. And think about those trusted people in your life again that you could talk to, that you could go to, and they can support you through getting help. So this is a lot of heavy stuff to think about. It's a lot to put in your head. It's a lot of information that some of you have probably never even heard before or thought about this way. So what can you do in this? So you can become a modern day abolitionist. You can join us by talking about trafficking, by talking about the fact that this exists in our world, and by actively opposing it, by not participating in it, by not buying things which are made by slaves, by not participating in commercial sex, and by not watching pornography. So you can spread the word. There's nothing human about human trafficking. It's all about greed. It's people who have distorted their minds to think that it's okay to sell another person, that it's okay to buy a person, it's okay to use a person. There's nothing human about that. It's just wrong. Buying sex is not cool. And if there were no buyers, there would be no victims. So if no one was buying sex, no one would be trafficked. Reject and speak out against pornography. Do not support this. It's something that is so supported in our culture, and if you hear that, speak out against it. Try to defy that. It's not helping us. There are humans being hurt behind those lenses. There are humans who are being attacked, who are in trafficking, who are having these images used against them. Just think about that. Think about the humanness in all of this, and tell your friends. And we want you to know that there is a subculture of slaves living among us. It's right here. It's in our communities, in our neighborhoods, perhaps in houses that are right nearby us. This could be happening. These are people who are going to school, going to work, going to church. And it is happening right here, and we need to remember that and think about that, and think about the fact that it isn't just happening in third world countries. It's right here in our communities. And so it's our responsibility to speak out against it and not support it. And as always, if you see something, say something. The Human Trafficking Hotline is a fantastic resource. There's a number there, 888-3737-888. You also have a great text line, which is 233-733, or Be Free. So if you see something which is suspicious in person, online, if you see something, you can call or text that number and you can let them know. They're going to investigate it. They're not just going to run out and arrest somebody and take somebody out of a situation. They're going to investigate that situation. So you can always say a tip. That is always helpful to them. And you could really be saving someone's life by doing that. If someone is in immediate danger, or if it is something to do with a child, you want to call 911. Don't step in and be a hero. Call one of these numbers and they can do that. They can have professionals come in and help people. And You can always make a call to National Hotline. It's anonymous. It's just always good to, if you see something, you might as well say it because you could really be helping someone. So knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. Frederick Douglass said that. So the more we know, the more we protect ourselves. You all now have a lot of information about trafficking. You know what to look out for. You know the signs of someone trying to groom you, someone trying to approach you. And you know that pornography is not a healthy thing. You know commercial sex is not a healthy thing. You have this knowledge now, so you can use that to protect yourself from being trafficked, and also to protect others and to fight trafficking with that knowledge. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this really difficult information and for seeking to be an abolitionist today. We need more people in this fight. Thank you.